I'm not making this up. They're not stupid. The Trump team has figured this out. They're not going to get the style voters anymore. Some suburban moms who don't like the tweets, they're lost. I made the point after the last debate that Trump's strategy here is becoming clear. Listen, is it executed perfectly all the time? Is everything Donald Trump does four-dimensional chess? No, it's not. But it's clear they have a strategy. And the strategy, which I said after the last debate, which everybody swore, remember, Joe, after the last debate, Trump was too aggressive. He turned everybody off. He's going to lose. It was horrible. Biden won so big. Yeah. And I went on Hannity and I said, you're missing the point here. Trump being aggressive was part of their strategy. That's not going to turn off one voter at all in the Trump base. Not one. They voted for aggressive Trump. The aggressive Trump, though, understanding it's a base election, got Joe Biden to alienate his own base as Joe Biden ran away, fumbled and bumbled, and ran away from some far left ideas in the first debate. I'm not going to stop fracking. Stop looking at it. Joe, please tell me I'm explaining this right, because this is super important, because you explained last night's debate too. Stop looking at it through how a Republican sees Joe Biden, these debates, and start looking at it as a Joe Biden possible supporter on the Democrat side sees Joe Biden, and you'll see how Trump has been so effective at decimating Biden's base in a base election. Again, two different types of elections. Not to simplify it, but for the sake of the show, there are really generally two types of elections. There are base turnout elections where you don't forget the independents, but you focus more on your hard conservatives, libertarians, and Republicans turning out every single one of them, and you hope to get a few independents. Another election, say a Reagan 84 election, you get your base and you try to cater to some independents too to get to 51%. That's not now. I'm not saying Trump doesn't care about independents. I'm telling you their strategy right now is if we get the independents, great, and the persuadable's terrific. But we think we can win by turning out our base in numbers we haven't seen before. Get it?
Okay.
He understands.
Yeah, that needs explaining. Yeah.
Please, because I'm getting tons of emails on this. He's saying
dude.
independents, fine, they're a secondary priority right now. Right now, I want people who haven't voted in years, but who are definitely Republicans, but are only marginally attached to politics. I want them to turn out numbers they haven't turned out before. And I think if they do it, even if we lose the independents, we can still win. That was his strategy in the first debate. Clearly, go Captain Aggressive, cater to that base, get people all riled up, and then get Biden to detach himself from his base by saying things like, I'm not for single-payer health care, by Trumping up the super predator comments, the predator comments about the black community Biden made, by Trump getting Biden to say, I'm not going to stop fracking. Remember, how does a leftist see that? What does he mean Biden's not going to stop fracking? What do you mean? He called young black men predators? Yeah, this is all true. That's what Trump was doing. Right. Everybody laughed. Oh, Dan Bongino's crazy. We had that dopey guy at late night, whatever his name, Seth Miller or something. He's like, look at this guy. Trump's the apex predator. It's a base election. This is so stupid. Really? Let's go to the Washington Examiner piece today. Again, a rather astute political analyst who's no Trumpkin, by the way. David Drucker, Washington Examiner. And some way you think you're wasting your time. You're like, I make this stuff up. I hear stuff. Trump juices base to compensate for 2016 supporters defecting to Biden. Sounds like something I said a few weeks ago. It's a base election. You're reading this thing all wrong. If Trump wins re-election, you can attribute it to the two debates, the ones you thought, at least in the first one, you thought Trump lost. You may think that, but trust me, the Trump team doesn't. Let's go to this Washington Examiner piece. There's two screenshots I want to point out here before we get to the video last night, showing you again how Trump is going exclusively for record turnout amongst diehards on his side. He's not forfeiting the independents, but they're a secondary priority, unlike almost every other election where you want the independents. Go to the Washington Examiner piece. I'll show you what I mean. Again, in case you think I just made this stuff up. Quote, David Drucker, but some Republican insiders in key Midwestern swing states say Trump's relentless focus on satisfying his most committed supporters just might deliver a late-breaking comeback. Wow. Well, that's just crazy. Again, this isn't a self-celebratory moment. I guess having run for office in the past, I get really tired of, wannabe Stygian and witch like political analysts who think we've got the eye. I love the Stygian and witches from Clash of the Titans. Give me the eye. And they act like they're like these prognosticators, and they've gotten it wrong for the last 20 election cycles. I actually ran. Believe me, I lost. It stinks. But you learn a whole lot when you try things and they don't work out. We almost won one, almost doesn't matter. You learn a lot of lessons. This is clearly a base election. We tried this exact same tactic in a congressional race in Maryland where we won on election day and lost on the absentee count just a few days later in a race that was overwhelmingly dominated by a Democratic D+6 district. We tried the same thing and it almost worked. I know what they're doing. He is catering to the base, hoping people who haven't voted in decades will show up, who aren't showing up in the polls. And by the way, in my interview show, I asked this question to Robert Cahaley from the Trafalgar Group. He confirms basically my answer that I'm telling you now. This is a base election. Second part of the Washington Examiner piece. Look at these numbers. Again, in case you think this is just an opinion, not based on a data point. An analysis conducted by David Wasserman of the Cook Political Report found 4.9 million eligible white voters without a college degree, part of Trump's base, that did not vote in 2016 in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. By the way, folks, states that were decided by just thousands of votes. White working class voters are the bulwark of Trump's base. If the president can draw more of them to the polls, he might offset defections in the suburbs and from other blocs that propelled him to the White House, but are now backing Joe Biden. Folks, the Trump campaign team is understood now for a long time that Trump's style, it can be abrasive. There's a lot of machismo there. There's a lot of Queens. I'm from Queens. Again, I get it. It doesn't bother me. But I get that it does bother others. There are some who don't like it. That's fine. That's your choice. We live in a constitutional republic. You vote for who you choose. If you're voting on style over the quality substance of the Trump presidency, whatever, you do you. It's a stupid reason to vote, but do your thing. I can't tell you otherwise. But the Trump campaign team is understood for a while now that the style voters, follow me, Joe, the style voters, that all they care about is the tweets. There's nothing they can do anymore about them. They're lost.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So he's figuring, well, if 55% of people who don't care about the tweets are Republicans and care about the substance, tax cuts, judges, Trump's war on the deep state, war on media bias, he's figuring if I can turn out even a few percentage points more of them, and there's a lot of them, 4.9 million, but there aren't a lot of undecideds, and I lose a few percentage points of them. So say I lose 5 percentage points of 1 million voters, but I gain 10 percentage points, say, of 4.9 million. What math works out better for you, folks? Oh, I'll take the 10 percentage points of 4.9 million rather than 1% of 1 million. Wouldn't you? I'm not making this up. They're not stupid. The Trump team has figured this out. They're not going to get the style voters anymore. Some suburban moms who don't like the tweets, they're lost.
You just heard Dan Bongino.